How you going? Today I'm going to talk about how crypto is enabling this paradigm shift, right, across a lot of industries. But today I'm going to be talking about the gaming industry specifically, and the game I'm going to be talking about is Illuvium. Um, Now there are a lot of different crypto games, but Illuvium's done something that's truly like a true paradigm shift, right? Um, and it's definitely worth understanding. Now, crypto has enabled this shift away from traditional structures. It's kind of a mixture, like, so they have their own token. There's a mixture of like DeFi, which is decentralized finance, and there's NFTs involved too. So it kind of encapsulates a lot of the kind of crypto use cases, puts them all into one. And I'm going to show you how wild the difference is, right? And how cool it can be, the potential it has. So first, we'll look at a very basic structure. Like I've put these maps together myself, very basic, just so we can kind of understand the flow of things, right? So these lines kind of represent the flow of money, and the arrow obviously shows the direction. So currently, we'll talk about Fortnite in this example. So currently, our players, Fortnite in this example is free to play. So players put their time into Fortnite. They pay money for skins. They pay money for kind of other skins that are that these partnered companies pay for. So Epic Games gets the money from the players. They pay for skins. They get money from the players that buy the promotional content. They also get money from the partnered companies that pay them to include that promotional content. Um, there's influencers, which kind of Epic pays themselves. The players pay the influencers. The influencers get paid by sponsors. The streaming platforms kind of get all of that revenue, right? Well, maybe this player line should go into the streaming platform, which then goes to influencers. I've probably done that wrong, um, but you get what I mean. This represents a lot of money coming out of the players, and none of it coming back, right? Um, the only players that get any real revenue back are the influencers, and I'm going to include the influencers as esports people, so professional gamers, because they're generally streaming because they're influence, right? They get sponsored, etc. So Epic Games every year, and they do a few other things as well. It's not much; it's just Fortnite. But they do about $6 billion annually in revenue. Um, just Twitch alone, the streaming platform, does 2.5 billion of annual revenue, and there's YouTube and a few others as well. Um, but this just indicates how much money players spend, how much they're willing to spend on skins, like digital assets, we'll call them. But the players don't really own any of this shit, right? They buy it once, or they buy them, they play for years, stop playing Fortnite, and they don't get anything back from Fortnite. So during the time they're playing, they get fun, they get emotional issues as well, and attention issues. But no, you get fun. So they pay for the fun. They buy the skins, which gives them like clout, which gives them status. Um, this promotional content given by these partnered companies also makes these players spend money elsewhere on this partnered shit that they're being advertised. So very basic. It's a lot more complex than this. This is probably wrong. Like I said, the players probably pay the streaming platform, which pay the influencer. So I kind of did that line wrong. But that's the general model, right? Very basic. Now we'll have a look. what Illuvium does. Now, Illuvium it was actually founded in Australia, this game, but it's now run by a DAO, and a DAO is a decentralized autonomous organization, and they have members all around the world. So it exists kind of nowhere in particular. It's decentralized. And yeah, so it's like it's the first Illuvium game is going to be kind of like Pokemon, but a bit more of a mature version of Pokemon. Imagine Pokemon, but instead of running around in a 2D top-down world, it's a big 3D, AAA, world-class graphical immersive experience. And there's monsters in the game, right? And when you capture them and battle them, the battle setup is more like chess. It's kind of like a more of a strategic auto battler, it's called, but it's kind of more like it's more like an auto chess, not chess in particular where you do each move strategically. It's kind of like you set your whole board up at the start, and so does your enemy or the other player on the other side of the computer. You set it all up at the start, and then it kind of all the moves happen for you. So it's there are games like that, like Teamfight Tactics, that have big esports followings. So it's a very, very tactical kind of fun experience. It's a lot more complex than the Pokemon battle system, which is, you have 4 moves: tackle, bloody growl, and whatever. You're just picking one of those 4 moves, and it's turn-based. This is a lot different. But anyway, enough of that. So as you can see here, there's a few more lines. It's not too much more complex, really. I have simplified it a bit. But the first thing you can notice is all of these arrows that go to the player and the influencer in this case. In the last model, zero of the arrows go to the players, right? The only arrows that go to any former player are the influencers or the esports pros, which represents a very, very, very small portion of the players. 0.00, no, you're never going to make it, really. Like the odds are pretty stacked against you. Like, you compare it to like soccer or compare it to any other sport, like there are a lot more people that game now. There are a lot more, and it's pretty hard to get injured, right? It's very easy to sit on your computer and play. So, whereas if it's, soccer, or you've got to get the time to go and be physically exertive, you've got to not get injured, the weather's got to be good, you've got to have an area around where you can practice, etc. So, like, if you do all those things, your odds of being a professional at soccer are higher, whereas the floor in gaming is a lot lower. You've just got to have a table with a computer on it, or even just a mobile phone, right? So very hard to become one of these influencers. You've got to put in a lot of time. It's a time game. You've got to put in 8 to 12 hours all day, every day, for years and years and years. And you could do it, but it sucks a lot out of you. So the only arrows are going to these influencers, which are a very small portion. Okay, so we go back here. All of these arrows go to the players and influencers. Now, how is this the case? Well, so Illuvium is a DAO. It's not a company. It's not a private company. It's not a public company. In this example, all the money goes to Epic and, say, the partnered companies, streaming platforms. Like, they get $6 billion in annual revenue, right? And just Twitch alone is like 2.5. Okay, so up here, Illuvium, not a private company. And what they do, so as a council of about 5 members that get elected in, and this DAO structure can change over time. It's the current iteration is that there's 5 council members. And there are proposals that they draft up, and they say, hey, we need this to happen for the game, we're going in this direction, what do you think? and then all the players, every single player, gets to vote on that proposal. They also get to suggest, ideas, and then so the players vote on the council members, and they vote on each proposal. So that's how the Illuvium DAO kind of works. Very basically, there's council members. They're voted in and out by the players. The players can suggest or can put forward proposals, and they can vote on proposals. So they can say, "Oh, the council's provided us with these 3 different solutions to a problem. I like this one." You vote on it, and the majority wins. Or if none of them are that popular, back to the drawing board. So that's a DAO. And now crypto's enabled that, right? Because all that voting is done on the blockchain. The players, so to vote, you have to own at least, you have to own some ILV. Now, ILV is the native token of the game, right? There's 10 million of them, whatever. I won't get into it too much, but if you buy some ILV and you have it in your wallet, or you stake it, you can vote. You can vote on all these things. And you have as much say as anyone else, right? So what Illuvium has done is they have this DAO, and there is the ILV staking pool, which is like a smart contract. It's decentralized finance. It's on the Ethereum network. So there's this pool, and if a player buys some ILV from it's on Binance, it's on exchanges, on SushiSwap, whatever. If you buy some, it's in your wallet. You can transfer it to the staking pool, and you get rewards. So you get yield back for staking your ILV. Now you can lock it for 1 month. You don't have to lock it at all, or you can lock it for a year. And depending on how long you lock your ILV, you get a different weighting on the rewards that you receive. Now this incentivizes, the ILV staying in the pool and not being sold, and kind of keeping the system healthy, right? So it's not parasitic on itself. So there's this pool. Now the Illuvium DAO owns about 15% of the tokens in the pool. So just say there's 10 million, they own about 1.5 million of them. So they own the vast majority of the tokens. Now what happens is, so the Illuvium DAO and their development team produce these games. Now the games have assets, they have promotional assets, and when the players, so these lines, remember, represent kind of where the money or the value flows, right? So the players play the game, and it can be free to play, but if you want to advance and kind of collect assets that have value, you'll have to pay as you go to go along, right? You have to pay some small fees here and there, microtransactions, to travel around and collect things. And so players have fun playing the game. There's also, there's as I said, the open world experience where you go around collecting things, and there's also the battle side where there's PvP, so players can play each other. So money goes in from the players, and that money goes to the DAO, which is distributed into the staking pool, right? And the Illuvium games, as I said, produce assets. When the players play the game, and they pay to play, they can also pay and capture these assets. Now when I say pay, I just mean, there's microtransactions here and there to move around and do things. It's very, very minimal. And so once they say, like Pokemon, you capture a Pokemon, you might need to buy a Pokeball from the mart. In Pokemon's case, that's all just fake digital stuff. You don't really own the Pokeball. The money you have in the game means really nothing. There's cheats where you can get infinite stuff, Pokeballs, infinite money, whatever. So that's not the case in Illuvium. So you kind of have to pay for the Pokeballs. You have to pay for the potions, and you have to pay to kind of move around. And once you've done that, you can capture assets. But once you capture them, you own them. So all of that time and money that you've spent capturing that asset is kind of instilled in that asset, right? There's a certain amount of value that it represents for you to collect it. And you've put in the time as well, so it's the time and money that's represented in that asset. There's also the scarcity of an asset. Maybe you've got some like super rare thing that there's only one of, or there's only 10 of out of, and there's millions of people playing. So obviously that rare one would be worth more. So what happens is the players capture and own all of the assets in their own wallet. It means that either, maybe you capture a few of the same thing that you don't need, or you've played for years, you get sick of the game, and you want to move on. Or what you can do is you can sell those assets on a marketplace, which is peer-to-peer, to other players. And so you own them. You can sell them if you want to another player, and you get the money. So you make back the money that you've spent playing the game. Now, in some instances, you might make back just the money you've spent. You might not. If you're not a very efficient player, if you haven't been lucky enough to catch anything good, you might make back half. This is just a guess or an estimate. You might make back half of what you put in. If you get sick of it, you go to sell, you go to move on, you might make back half of what you spent, which already is 50% more, right? Well, 100% more than games like Fortnite, where you just spend, and you never get any like monetary value back, right? You don't own any of those assets. So you can sell them or buy them on the marketplace. And then there's a percentage of that, let's just say it's 5%, might be 5 or 7.5% or something. There's a fee, and that fee goes to this staking pool. Also, so when you're playing the game, you're buying your Pokeballs and your potions and you're traveling around, that money goes to the DAO and it's distributed to this staking pool, right? And the partnered companies that want to provide promotional skins, whatever, they pay to have their assets, skins and stuff in the game. That money goes to the staking pool. So all revenue, all money that is accrued by the game, so all the money that goes into it gets distributed to this staking pool. All the players, maybe there's people that don't even play and they're just, investing. Anyone that owns an ILV token and it's staked in the pool receives a proportional amount of that revenue. So each one ILV token receives the same amount of revenue. So because there's 10 million ILV tokens, let's say, argument's sake, all of them are staked, so there's 10 million being staked in the staking pool, and the game makes $10 million for a given time period. Every token gets $1. So you get $1, right? And how the DAO makes money and how the game, or the studio continues to function to pay their development team to continue to make games, right, is that they own 15% of those tokens. So they get 15% of the revenue, say, and then they use that to pay the development team, pay for promotions, pay for merchandise. So I haven't even added all of this in. So there's, it could be merchandise, could be movies, all these different things. So yeah, pretty cool. So you can see all of these arrows. So players can buy and sell their assets on the marketplace, so they get revenue back, right? Um, the the assets you can choose you own if you want. The other thing is you can start from free to play, and you can get very very not undesirable, but not very assets that aren't worth that much. And if you put in a few months and you grind up, you might accrue enough revenue, and you sell those assets. You might accrue enough to move to a zone where you can start capturing more valuable assets. The other thing is there's esports. So let's say esports tournaments. There's millions and millions of dollars of even just prize money in esports tournaments. All of the ad revenue, all of the participant revenue, all of that revenue goes to the DAO, gets distributed to everyone that holds an ILV token. So this model, this DAO model, is revolutionary. It's a massive paradigm shift, right? It's it's almost the exact opposite of the last model, where literally no arrows go to the players. They get nothing back. They have no say in Epic Games. Maybe if Fortnite has an update that everyone hates, Epic Games sees that by player count dropping. Then they kind of guess why that is the case, make a change, see what happens. And any kind of still a lot of advertising, right? So there's a lot of advertising is traditionally you're trying to capture people in, and it's a bit deceptive, right? So they kind of deceive them into, hey, this new thing's cool. Oh, we don't like it. So it's kind of this like really disconnected one-way relationship where Epic Games is trying to make as much money as possible. Now, don't get me wrong, the DAO trying to make as much money as possible, but it's not at the expense of the players, because the players decide everything, right? They vote on the council members, and they vote on the proposals that are put forward by the council members. And they actually want the game to do well and make money, because each player is a shareholder in the company, right? And that's the biggest thing to take away from this is imagine McDonald's. Imagine like not many people that eat at McDonald's are a shareholder of McDonald's, right? So what the company wants and what the customer wants are different things, right? There's a disconnect there. Like the company wants to make as much profit as possible, and that comes at the expense, not just monetary, but maybe like health or a bunch of different things of the customer a lot of the times. So we're now in a place, this exists, this is happening, where the customer or the consumer is the shareholder. And they benefit from the success of the community that they're involved in, or the business, or whatever. There's going to be a lot of new terminology that needs to exist for this, right? So this is a community. It's also a business. It's a few things. So, but there are a lot of other communities that exist that are starting to incorporate this kind of model. Now, there aren't too many other games in the blockchain space that do this. There are ones that allow the players to own their own assets, battle each other, and kind of earn tokens, right? And there's a marketplace, etc. So you can get the assets, sell it on the marketplace, etc. But Illuvium is one of the few, and it's by far the most notable one, that has this DAO set up that distributes all its revenue back to the players, right? So it's like it's pretty wild. And not only that, but allows the players to make decisions. Okay. Total game studio revenues over 180 billion each year. Can you imagine how much more players will spend if they know they can make half of what they spend back at least? If they can make it all back? If they put in enough time, potentially, or they're lucky enough, potentially profit, right? Or, they can also buy the governance token, stake it, and from that revenue that's distributed to them, they can play the game for free, which is pretty cool. Imagine getting enough revenue from the game you're playing to continue to play it for free. And then at the end, if you want, you can sell that ILV, probably make more than your money back, and move on. Yeah, pretty wild. I hope this made sense. Not sure how long this has gone for. Let's have a quick look. 25 minutes, probably too long. Fuck you all.